Hello, I'm Wanda from Prospects, and I'm here to celebrate National Novel Writing Month this November with a series of conversations celebrating careers in writing and journalism. And I'm here today with Matt Shaw. Matt is mostly a freelance multimedia journalist who specializes in US politics, but he also hosts his own political podcast and news website. He's on the advisory board for Naked Politics, which is a fantastic outlet for political journalism aimed at young people, and he studied journalism at the University of Lincoln. Matt, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate it. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your career so far?
Sure thing. Yeah, and thanks for having me. My career so far is mostly independent freelancing because I came straight out of a degree program at Lincoln, like you said, and I've gone straight into a postgraduate. So my freelancing is basically just worked around my studies, but it's given me some good opportunities. I've worked for a couple of companies just doing jobs whenever they need them doing, basically.
It's always a good way to get into something, I'm sure. When did you know that you wanted to work in journalism?
My story for that is a bit strange. I've always liked writing and reading, so I always kind of wanted to do something around that. But I'd never actually thought of journalism as a career until, and it's a bit embarrassing, but until I watched the first season of Riverdale. Um, I haven't gone past that. I went off
You
it.
view yourself as a Jughead Jones type?
That's the thing. Yeah, it was like, God, that looks fun. So I kind of just started looking into it, and then I like kind of fell in love with journalism.
That is an amazing answer for that. I love it. I feel like every career should have some bizarre representation. How have you found the transition from being a student to then being a graduate, and now you're kind of looking to the future of professional roles? Like, how has that journey been for you?
It's been jarring so far. You kind of get spat out of degrees a little bit, and it's kind of you have to get your senses a bit before you find out what you want to do. But after you kind of get your bearings, I think it's quite exciting actually, because you've had the 3 years in the degree, you get out of the degree, and then it's kind of like whichever path you actually want to go down, it's kind of up to you then. Um, so yeah, I'd say I'm quite enjoying it. It's like a independence.
I think that's a good way to look at it. Sort of a jarring transition, but it means that at the end of it, you really have all those opportunities that maybe you weren't aware of before. It's a pretty
Yeah,
an exciting change, I guess.
yeah.
How about applying to do a postgrad? I know that you said you were doing a master's. What has that experience been like?
Um, the actual application process or the being on the masters.
A bit of both. How did you find the journey and then now the experience?
The journey, very simple, because my options were limited, so I kind of didn't have to worry about which places to go to. Um, but I would say the application process is easier than going into a degree almost, because you kind of know a bit more about exactly what you want to do and what you want to get out of it. And then the actual program so far is great. It's like at the end of the degree when you really feel more settled into a course. It's like that, but from the beginning. So
Hmm.
I'm enjoying it.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear and happy to know that you found that process easy.
Cheers. Thank you.
Definitely a relief. Um, how about what is the biggest challenge you feel like you've faced in maybe your career, but also your academic life so far?
Uh, the biggest challenge I've faced, definitely in academic, would be the dissertation, which was like the biggest thing I've ever worked on, 10,000 words. So that was a big one. But I think it's a weird one because it's a huge challenge and it's a huge task. But once you actually really get stuck into it, it isn't that bad because you just kind of plug away and write every day, and it just kind of puts itself together almost. Um, and then the biggest challenge career-wise so far has probably been the podcasts that I do, just because of how much time they take and how much effort. coming up with the ideas for them and then finding the right people, and then working with time zones to get the interview sorted. And then the editing process, which last episode I think took me a couple of weeks just because I have to work it around like my course and my part-time job and things. So that's probably the biggest challenge I've had in professional terms.
Hmm. What did you write your dissertation on?
I wrote my dissertation on how or whether the New York Times attempted to influence Democratic voters in the 2016 election. Very specific.
I can understand why that would be a challenge.
Yeah, it took,
Well, it sounds like you pulled it off anyway. You
it
found yourself
was,
in a postgrad.
yeah, it turned out all right. It was a lot of reading, but yeah.
Exciting reading though, maybe. How about maybe a more positive question? What career moment are you most proud of?
That would be there's two, and the first one is being nominated by the NCTJ, which is the National Council for the Training of Journalists. They're like the big organisation that oversees journalism in the UK. Being shortlisted for an award for one of my podcast episodes by them was the first big moment, and then being shortlisted for an award by the Student Publication Association for an article I wrote with another person. So those two, I would say.
Oh,
Uh,
congratulations.
Thank
Which
you.
episode of your podcast was it that was nominated?
It was the one about, I can't even remember the name of it, which is strange. It was about immigration in the US. It was about a piece of a program called DACA, which is for people who were brought to the US illegally as children and then they've grown up there their whole lives. It was a good one.
I'll have to put the link somewhere in the description and people can find it and listen for themselves, see what they think. Um, do you have any advice for maybe current students or graduates who would like to potentially pursue a career in journalism? Or maybe what would you like to tell yourself from like 10 years ago? What would you say?
I would say take more opportunities if you can. So it only really in the last couple of years have I taken all the opportunities that came to me, which is how I got the position as news editor on the student newspaper. It's how I got my responsibility at Naked Politics. It's how I got shortlisted for those awards because I just kind of put the time aside to make things, which I think is the biggest thing. It's one of those career paths where you really have to kind of get stuck in. So you don't have to be a professional to make stuff, just kind of make stuff and keep improving on it. And when you get an opportunity or a chance to take an opportunity, just take it, even if you're not sure about it. Give it a try.
That's a great piece of advice. And finally, where can people find you and your work online? Do you have any websites or profiles that you'd like to share with everyone?
I do. I will send you the links if you like, so that they can go wherever. But I've got my LinkedIn profile is probably the best place to go because it's like my portfolio almost. Um, and then other than that, if you want to listen to the podcasts, you can search Silhouette on Spotify, and it should come up somewhere near the top. It's by the Locus. Yeah, give it a listen if you like.
I'm sure somebody somewhere will, and
Sure.
they will let you know what they thought. Well, thank you so much for answering those questions, Matt, and for joining us today. There will be a few more interviews following this, celebrating National Novel Writing Month. But that was a really insightful talk, and I'm so glad that you joined us. So thank you very much. And thank you everyone else for watching too. I really appreciate it. And I hope you're having a good day.